Welcome back, pro wrestling fans. Welcome back, IWC. It's your old buddy, the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy. And I tell it like it is. Coming to you live to tape 25 feet below the surface of the earth. Hold that thought. Wait a minute. I'm live. I'm looking at the clock. It's real time. That's the real time. I am live right now. By the time I get off, upload it, it'll be later, so it'll be taped as well. Hence, live to tape. Bumfuzzled. I guess both statements are accurate, so fuck it, you guys get it, right? Here on Guardian of Chaos, the YouTube channel, for another special edition of Story Time. Pumping out the contents, getting a few shows together, reading from over 50 years in the business and over 50 of the greatest calls in pro wrestling from Jim Ross's Bible of his career. Business is about to pick up. So it's been humbling and honor to be able to read it as we're doing for the very first time together here at Story Time. I just open up a chapter and we read it together, stumbling, mumbling, bumbling. One man, unique, unedited, unscripted, raw dog for you, the fans. Let's jump right into Story Time. Bottom line, gentlemen, he's got the old man's blood in him. The American dream lives through the heart and soul of his son. October 3rd, 2019. That's right, October 3rd, 2019. Cody Rhodes versus Sammy Guevara at AEW Dynamite, Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. Bear with me, fans, bear with me. Listen to the beautiful tropical sounds. Storms all over the place. Shout out from our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because if he's for us, no one else can be against us. Be mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and physically fit at all times. Stay with like-minded people. And I mean that as a shoot, as I'm fumbling through the pages here. I mean that. There's a lot happening in this world at one time. So if I can bring you a distraction and keep you maybe informed or just a little sidebar, I hope that I can do that. Shout out to the moderators, Austin, Nance, and of course Jen, aka the OTS Tribal Queen. I hope you guys are holding it down, keeping it real, and maintaining here on Story Time. And Flashback will be back soon, along with Story Time. We have a lot going on, and of course my weekly coverage of AEW Dynamite, and of course the WWE, whether it be SmackDown or Raw, depending on what storylines I'm following. But I keep it accurate. I give you not, what can I say? I give you thoughts and views. I don't always give opinions. Here we go. October 3rd, 2019. There's a place in life and business for the new and the old to work side by side. Now, I know I'm saying this as a man in his 70s, and therefore might sound a little biased. But most things in life need those who have been there to guide those who are on their way. Hence what I always say about the rear view mirror into present day and then looking ahead in the windshield. Do I have to say it again? To get the phrases across, just like my phrase about respect and making things happen. You guys know those if you're regulars here. But for the newbies, you look back in the rearview mirror. It's smaller for a reason, but it happens. It's memory. It's keeping you alive. It's going back and honoring those who paved the way before you, because without that rearview mirror, chances are you wouldn't be where you are. I get it about the front windshield. That's when you turn around and honor where you came from and learn from those who have been there. And then you look in the wide fucking open front view mirror, front view windshield, and you jam it and step on it, and it's full speed ahead to get you from where you are to where you want to be. Remember that and the sayings that are here on Chaos Corner. Thank you for listening and putting up with my, eclecticness at sometimes. Moxley, and oh, wait, I wasn't on Moxley. Get back, focus, Chaos. Focus on what you're doing here. We are live on the air because there is no editing. If this was live, this is it. This is what you see. I don't go back and edit shit out. All impromptu. That's why you're here. And even though I'm now older, I love innovation. And I love it more when it's tethered to tradition and legacy. We can and must all move forward in life. But that doesn't mean we ignore the well-trodden paths of the past. Thankfully, the more I move forward in this business and the more I see it change, the more I hear the echoes of yesteryear coming back in new and helpful ways. AEW to me is a company that has that blending of then and now. Its very DNA. And there seems to be, or at least to me, to quote JR, a very clear path from then to explain why that's the case. When I was a child, we didn't have cable, so I would drive 30 miles one way to my cousin's house to catch wrestling on Saturdays, only to come home and reenact the matches I'd witnessed in my room with my toy soldiers on my bed. I lived in a concrete blockhouse in East Oklahoma, dreaming of one day calling the matches and somehow being involved in the business I loved. We all have similar stories. That's why when I say it, marks. That's right, we were all marks at one time. Be proud of it. It's okay to be a mark. My story isn't unusual in that regard. Tony must have heard me. A lot of wrestling fans that get hooked as kids imagine themselves being under those lights or surrounded by those passionate crowds. One of those fans was Tony Khan. It's been well documented here in 2024. Who, like a lot of us, used all his spare time as a kid to consume everything he could when it came to professional wrestling. Young Tony watched promotions from all over the world and memorized the dates, times, and participants on obscure and legendary cards alike. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Cornette does it, Dutch Mantel does it, heck, I even do it. There's nothing wrong with that. One of those fans was Tony Khan, who, like a lot of us, used all his spare time as a kid to consume everything he could when it came to professional wrestling, as I just said. Young Tony watched promotions from all over the world and memorized the dates and times. He was then and is now a walking encyclopedia on professional wrestling. While I used to simulate the matches when I was a boy, Tony, many years later, in another part of the country and in a house many times removed from a brick farmhouse in Oklahoma, wrote wrestling shows in his spare time. Who knew? How about that? And the name of the show he invented at the time and at that young age was called Dynamite. To give you backstory here on Storytime. Because you never know where I'm going to end up, what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do, how this is going to end, and what happens here on Chaos Corner. That's part of showing up for the entertainment value. Cut to years later. A 36-year-old Tony Khan, fresh from the huge success of AEW's inaugural pay-per-view, was about to bring AEW fans' first ever weekly wrestling show to TNT, and I was right there to guide it on its way. All Elite Wrestling is on the air, live from the sold-out Capital One Arena from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. 14,129 fans jammed this joint. It was fresh. It was nostalgic. It was the future and the past coming together on the same night as TNT hosted its first wrestling show since WCW closed down almost 20 years before. And it wouldn't be long before we ended up going head-to-head with WWF's third brand NXT on Wednesday nights. After they decided to move opposite us to give wrestling its first true head-to-head battle since the Monday Night Wars. Put that in your pipe and smoke it to give you useless tidbits and facts of information here on Chaos Corner. Again, everything new was echoing the old, and I kind of agree. We embraced that theme on our show immediately as I introduced the world to my new masked partner, Excalibur. This is Tony talking. And my good friend and former partner from Crockett WCW days, Tony Schiavone. You guys know how I feel about the current broadcasters on AEW. Loved Taz. Loved Schiavone at one time. Excalibur, I can't relate to. Good for what he does or where he comes from or moving forward. Schiavone gets off into another job. Maybe put Excalibur on Ring of Honor or somewhere else. Let him do the certain Japanese shows, which is his strength. I'm just calling it like it is. Keep Taz on for color, and let's bring in, I don't know, anyone from Joey Styles to Rick Abani to Jim Cornette. I mean, there's plenty of guys qualified out there. Even the GOC. That's me, because I know you guys are watching. I know some AEW people tuned in and got back to me. It's no big deal. Nobody cares, because if you weren't watching, I'd still be doing it. It's the voice thing. I'm doing multiple shows. Where were we, fans? Stay with me. We already talked about Tony Khan. We talked about WCW. We talked about Excalibur, Schiavone, Taz. We were talking about the announcers. Jim Ross, good old JR. Business is certainly picking up. What a book. Bottom line, gentlemen, we embraced that theme on our show immediately as I introduced the world to my new masked partner, Excalibur, and Tony Schiavone, his old buddy. I felt great walking that live TV high wire again on a new show that was ironing out all its wrinkles live on the air, well, kind of like we do here at Chaos Corner. So I could agree with that, JR. Like we were building a plane as we were flying it. We're going to kick this off with a major matchup. And the first wrestler to make his entrance for the newly minted company and their flagship show was the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, the current undisputed WWE World Champion, especially coming off of SummerSlam 2024, where he beat Solo Sikoa, and the real tribal chief, Roman Reigns, returned to perhaps the biggest pop in quite some time. And now organically it looks like Reigns may be a face. You couldn't get it done, Vince. That's good shit, pal. The crowd's fickle, man. I'm just saying. I'm reverting old times, new times here on Story Time. And Crockett's still around in AEW. So this is a great book we've been watching, that I've personally been watching since the, early 70s. Wow. At first, the first wrestler, as we said, was the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, the son of my dear departed white shirt, red blood loving friend, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Man, what an ovation. What an atmosphere here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are watching around the world, whether it be here in the States on TNT, in Canada on TSN, the United Kingdom on ITV, or worldwide through the Fight app, we thank you for being with us, as I do here on Chaos Corner, for Story Time. The delivery system that boomed during the TV era and expanded during the pay-per-view era had now metastasized into a patchwork quilt of legacy TV networks, international partners, and live streaming services that covered the globe. That meant that even as an alternative brand, we were able to welcome any wrestling fan from almost anywhere in the world that wanted to join us. So it's why ratings and sponsors and all that do matter. And who better to represent the mission statement of the company than a second-generation grappler, present-day star like Cody Rhodes, a man who chose to leave the WWE to go to the indie wrestling market to charter his own course. Risky move, indeed. A lot have tried it, some and few have made it, a lot haven't. Which concluded with him banking on AEW. Bottom line, gentlemen, he's got the old man's blood in him. The American dream lives through the heart and soul of his son Cody, and this is a huge matchup. Now fast forward, we know what's happened. This book was written a couple of years ago, so in the time frame, we're in 2024, going into 2025. Cody's the new champion, as we know. This was released back, I believe, in 2020, I'm thinking. Let me go back to the beginning of the book of when it was released so we get a time frame. I love to have the time frame as I read through the comments. Bear with me, fans. Bear with me. We're not even 15. We're just about 15 minutes in. Ben Bella Books. Business is about to pick up. 50 years of wrestling and 50 unforgettable calls from JR. To a lifetime of fans from a lifelong fan. This was Ben Bella is out of Dallas, Texas. So this was in 2024 this was released. So earlier this year, you know, it was worked on previously before this. So I'll say 2023. This book is current. This book is relevant. That's why I chose to pick it up and give it to you on Storytime. You see what's going on here with the sound system, right? Should I encourage her? Should I bring her in for story time as I get back to what we're talking about here? Alexa, play Tropical Thunderstorm sounds. See how nice I really am to her? No need for her to be a bitch. I'm trying to get along, man. Stand by, fans, as I was preaching on here about the Cody Rhodes business. I got to see what chapter I was on. Again, I've read this for the first time along with you. I'm thankful that you guys are here. I really am. I'm glad that we're going along at it together as I try to find where I was. You know, I say it all the time. My mind is like a lazy Susan. It will come back around. I just wanted to go to the beginning to let you know this book has just come out. I mean, it literally has come out this year. In the 50 different chapters that are in it, and where I was. I was on Cody Rhodes, Sammy Guevara. Bottom line, gentlemen, he's got the old man's blood. The American dream lives through the heart and soul of his son. AEW Dynamite. So bear with me, guys. Bear with me. Have a drink. Have a shot. Have a protein drink. Maybe do some push-ups. Bear with me here. I want to make sure that I get the right page. We go right back to where we were, because I like to keep these short. Anywhere from a half an hour on the long side to 15 or 20 minutes, so I can pump out the content so we can keep it relatable, so I don't lose your attention. We know what the fuck we're talking about, and I do apologize for the language. Okay. As I bite my lower lip. All right, I think we're back where we were. I believe we are. Stand by, guys. This is what happens when it's live to tape. I finally got it. At least I got the beautiful sounds in the back. My moderators, hopefully you're keeping track of everything in the talking amongst yourselves in the chat. All right, here we go, fans. We are back on the bottom line, gentlemen, here on Chaos Corner on the Guardian of Chaos, the YouTube channel. We already cut to 6 years later, a 36-year-old Tony Khan, fresh from the huge success of AEW's inaugural pay-per-view, was about to bring AEW fans its first ever weekly wrestling show on TNT. And I was right there to guide it on its way. All Elite Wrestling Dynamite is on the air, live from the sold-out Capital One Arena from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. 14,129 fans jammed this joint, and I know I read it already. I'm getting us back up to speed. It was fresh. It was nostalgic. It was the future and the past coming together on the same night as TNT hosted its first wrestling show since WCW closed down almost 20 years before. And it wouldn't be long before we ended up going head-to-head with WWE's third brand, NXT, on Wednesday nights. We embraced that theme on our show immediately. As I introduced the world to my new masked partner, this is where we got all fucked up, and you know why. Excalibur and Tony Schiavone, his old-time friend. We were going to kick this off with a major matchup. Man, what an ovation. The American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, the son of my dear departed white shirt blood-loving friend Dusty Rhodes. I know. I read this already. I know. Man, what an ovation. What an atmosphere. Get over to the Fight app, TSN, all over the United States, pay-per-view, and thank you for being with us. The delivery system that boomed during the TV era and expanded during the pay-per-view era, and now, as I said before, metastasized into a patchwork quilt of legacy TV networks, international partners. This is where I was talking about ratings. And live alternative streaming services. We were able to welcome any fan across the globe that wanted to join us. And who better to represent the mission statement of the company than second generation, as I said, present day star Cody. A man who chose to leave the WWE to go to the indie wrestling market, to charter his own course, which concluded with him back on AEW. Bottom line, gentlemen, he's got the old man's blood in him. The American dream lives through the heart and soul of his son Cody, and this is a huge matchup. And if Cody was the fresh link to the past, his opponent in Dynamite's first ever match was surefire rocket to the future Sammy Guevara. Very talented young man is Sammy Guevara. Win, lose, or draw in this matchup, he's a great signee for the AEW group. Right out of the gate, AEW had to take risks on a lot of young guys because WWE began to sign anyone and everyone who had any name value, which I can only guess was to show down AEW's progress. So our guys were having to learn to wrestle a main event live on national TV in prime time. This wasn't access television or even cable, and there were no do-overs, no take-backs. If things went south and the company put their faith in the first match, not only in Cody, but also in a guy with a far less experienced position, but all the potential in the world. I say it all the time on why the independents are so fucking important. Now you understand. Sammy Guevara was a young, athletic, cocky heel who knew already how to get the audience to dislike him. Veterans backstage like Cody and Jericho pinpointed Guevara as having unlimited ability if given the right opportunities. Well, here he is in the first big TV match. He was proving his high-profile supporters correct in the highest pressure situation he'd ever encountered. Now remember, they learned about Guevara because he was wrestling here in the Northeast, Greater New England Tri-State area on the independent circuits. We heard about Guevara at least 2 years before he ever made it there. Got to do your research. You got to do your homework. What the hell is it going to take? What the hell is it going to take to beat Sammy Guevara here tonight? Sammy's having trouble maintaining his equilibrium. His balance has been affected. Good Lord, he's being resurrected. After several close calls for Guevara, Sammy decided to climb the top rope and let it fly. And as he rotated through the air, the more experienced Rhodes wanted to get his knees up and roll Guevara into a pin. Knees up, inside cradle hook, and locked in the 3 count. Cody beat Sammy Guevara in a hell of a match. But it was much more than that. It was a mission statement. A clear signal to the fans watching live and all around the world. It was the opening salvo from a company that wanted us to talk about the past, to not be ashamed of our history, to remember and credit the pioneers who popularized certain moves and mastered certain matches. WWE made the strategic decision to ban the word wrestling, banning the word wrestling from its broadcasts. That's not good shit, pal. Even though it's literally in their name, and clearly whatever decisions they took along the way helped grow them into a multi-billion-dollar company. But AEW started out as they meant to continue, standing on the shoulders of the giants that came before them. Tony and I grew up in different generations, in different circumstances, in different parts of the country. But the communal nature of being a fan of something bigger that has brought me, him, and a team of hundreds before an arena of thousands to present his vision for a new worldwide audience of millions. And that night, he used the new and the old, the fresh and the classic to get it done. Now, what's happened since then? That's another story for another time. That's not included here on Story Time. Hey, we did 27 minutes on this one. I'm having a good time. I hope you guys are too. Stay positive. That's all we have. I'll say that to say this. Because I tell it like it is. You guys know that. Don't you dare miss it.